I see the need for a great reset.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
Assessment continues to be that the risk to health globally continues to be low. There have been no deaths since 2nd of May, when WHO was first informed of the cluster of cases. All suspected and confirmed cases have been isolated and managed under strict medical supervision, minimizing any risk of further transmission. At the moment, there is no sign that we are seeing the start of a larger outbreak. But of course, the situation could change. And given the long incubation period of the virus, it's possible we might see more cases in the coming weeks. Each of the countries to which the passengers have been repatriated is responsible for monitoring the health of those passengers. WHO's recommendation is that they should be monitored actively at a specified quarantine facility or at home for 42 days from the last exposure, which is the 10th of May, which takes us to the 21st of June. Anyone who becomes symptomatic should be isolated and treated immediately.
The Hansa virus outbreak isn't natural. That's the explosive revelation from a Gates Foundation insider, who says the deadly strain was engineered through a partnership involving Bill Gates, Gavi and DARPA, and that the global rollout plan has been underway for months. According to the whistleblower, Gates and his friends at Moderna have also been developing a vaccine for the strain behind closed doors, positioning themselves to profit from the very crisis they're creating. And here's the chilling part. Bill Gates warned the world years ago that a future pandemic will kill billions. He delivered the warning with that trademark smirk. But he wasn't joking. He was telling the public exactly what the elite had planned. And now, that plan has entered its next phase. And once you see the evidence we're about to lay out, you'll understand why they're terrified of people connecting the dots.
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap. And that's the magic of this thing. But there's no doubt in the next 5 years, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembling. There's no inherent reason it's not thermostable, it's not cheap, and it's not scalable. And so, as over the 5 years, we fix that part of it, mature it, which is very typical, we'll be able to build factories worldwide that can make $2 vaccines with even less lead time than we've had to have here during this pandemic. And we'll use those, as you suggest. For every disease that we don't have vaccines, we will try mRNA. In fact, for HIV, we have multiple ways, one that's more of a B cell approach, one that's more of a T cell approach. For malaria, we have multiple ideas. For TB, we have multiple ideas. And so to fill in the missing vaccines, we'll make a lot of our bets of the Gates Foundation and others who care about global health will be mRNA focused.
A Gates Foundation insider claims the next phase of the elite agenda began the moment corporate media amplified the fear campaign surrounding the cruise ship MV Honduras, unquestioningly broadcasting the panic-driven narrative pushed by a professional travel influencer on board. The influencer wasn't just documenting events, he was playing a role in the operation, flooding social media and news outlets with hysteria of fear and exaggerated claims of chaos, designed to psychologically prime the public for what comes next.
And I'm sorry, how is it that there are 147 people on board with 3 people dead, 7 confirmed cases of the hantavirus, and the only video we've all seen from inside the ship is one guy named Jake crying in his cabin? No, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, okay? And then I read about one other passenger who was quoted in BBC and AP coverage named Kazem Hato, also known online as Ibn Hattuta. Sorry if I mispronounced that. This guy. And he sent over footage over WhatsApp to AP News and BBC, and he gave them quotes specifically saying, actually, morale is high. People are watching movies, reading, and drinking hot drinks. 3 people are dead. And then it gets even weirder because he's posting stuff like this on his story. You can pause to read it, but the second paragraph says, this whole situation has been blown out of proportion partly because of one person panicking on the ship whose video has been circulating on the media. While his reaction is valid, it doesn't represent the situation on board. Everyone else, 148 out of 149, has been calm. The situation is under control, and we just wish those who are sick a speedy recovery.
What's going on here? It just so happens the owners connected to the MV Honduras are involved in biolabs in the Netherlands, including work involving vaccines and animal testing for viral pathogens such as SARS-CoV-2 and other novel viruses. Just another coincidence, according to the media. But at a certain point, the coincidences start forming a pattern.
Oh, certainly we'll have one in the next 25 years. There's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now.
According to the Gates Foundation whistleblower, global elites have been quietly spreading hantavirus outbreaks while finalizing the vaccines they plan to mandate on terrified populations. They got the patent out of the way just last year. Impeccable timing as always. Once they had a vaccine in place, they had to create a lethal virus. Here's what we know about the new hantavirus. Bill Gates, his globalist vaccine cartel Gavi, and DARPA have been working on developing more lethal strains of the virus. No wonder Bill Gates' Gavi knew that the next pandemic was going to be the hantavirus. If you're experiencing deja vu right now, you're not alone.
Gavi was one of the first major platform initiatives of the World Economic Forum, and in many ways it serves us as a role model for how the public and private sector should cooperate in order to do some good work in a much more efficient way compared if governments alone or business alone or civil society alone would have acted. It showed not only what we can do, but it showed also how we can do what we are doing in a much more comprehensive way.
Straight from Klaus Schwab's mouth, Gavi are the stormtroopers of the global elite's biopharma terrorist wing. It gets even worse. But quickly, if you're researching dangerous material like this online, protect yourself. The surveillance grid is tightening by the day.
See, as we described also in the book, many of those technologies, just look at face recognition, just look at the technologies which you need for tracking people and so on. But then look also what we are seeing now with some of the companies engaged into the research for vaccines, using completely new methods based on synthetic biology. We have been very active, also actively involved in the whole question of vaccines. How can we promote those technologies, but on the other hand, make sure that those technologies are not used at the detriment of humankind.
Now back to Gates, the world's leading bioterrorist, who also worked with DARPA to run a clinical trial with an Andes strain hantavirus experimental gene therapy vaccine, the exact same strain behind the so-called outbreak on the cruise ship. You know, the cruise ship, with owners who own biolabs invested in vaccines and novel pathogens. Honestly, what are the chances of that? 1 in a trillion? About as likely as a sequence tied to a Moderna patent from 2016 just happening to be found inside the COVID spike protein. It's 2026. Given everything we know about Fauci's gain-of-function work, Gates' mRNA crimes, and Big Pharma's criminality, are we really still letting them get away with these crimes against humanity? What does it mean for humanity? We have the Gates Foundation insider speaking to us in just a moment. But first, some context. The fact Gates and his cronies were not punished for COVID means a virus with a fatality rate of the bubonic plague has been quietly seeded by psychopathic bioterrorists across the world.
You say, okay, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports? How would the world respond to that? That there's naturally caused epidemics and bioterrorism caused epidemics that could even be way worse than what we experience today.
It means experimental mRNA vaccines tied to the usual Gates links networks are ready for rapid mass rollout the moment the orchestrated media panic creates a market. It means World Health Organization aligned governments are under orders to ramp up pressure campaigns, pushing mandates on populations about to face the most aggressive wave of psychological manipulation from the media since 2020. It means the World Health Organization has been emboldened to openly call for one world governance in response to the outbreak.
Instead, this outbreak has seen why the world needs a global entity that coordinates this.
And it means the return of lockdowns, restrictions, digital controls, and emergency powers, all justified in the name of public safety, while unelected global institutions accelerate the Agenda 2030 framework they never abandoned in the first place. Because if you thought that agenda disappeared after COVID, you haven't been paying attention. Coming up next, we speak to the Gates Foundation insider who drops bomb after bomb on her former boss Bill Gates and reveals the numbers he's planning to kill with his next pandemic.
For 12 years, I was a virologist for Bill Gates at one of the most powerful global health organizations on earth. I thought I was saving people. I was actually helping build the machinery to kill billions. It was a rainy night in this cold waterfront mansion outside Seattle, fall of 2023, just the inner circle. My boss stands up, eyes flat and dead like a shark's, and says in this calm, almost hungry voice, 15% was pathetic. They fight us. They keep fucking breeding. They won't lie down and die like they're supposed to. So, we're raising the fucking target. He let it hang there, then dropped the hammer. He said 84%, billions erased in our lifetime. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd puke right there. He hadn't told the world yet, but we knew his foundation would close in 20 years. Now I understood. It's a countdown to mass extinction. Hit 84% and they shut the lights off. Mission accomplished. No more foundation, no more evidence, just silence. He got this twisted, almost sexual look on his face and kept going. We're creating something special, he said. A fast-acting HIV that transmits through the air, full CD4 cell destruction. But we've added enhanced mucosal binding so it spreads like the flu. One cough in a crowd, 6 weeks later, their immune systems are liquefied from the inside. The African labs are perfect. Endless primates, no oversight. Perfect for serial passage. DARPA's vectors make it unstoppable. Hanavirus is already a horror show. Lungs bleeding out, drowning in your own fluids while you suffocate awake. We're weaponizing it for easy person-to-person spread. Then he smiled, this creepy, soulless smile. And the rats, he said, we've rewritten their brains. Neural tropism. They don't just carry it anymore. They hunt. They swarm into homes at night. Bite, shit, piss everywhere. Living, breathing plague bombs that never stop coming. Cheap. Self-replicating. Impossible to contain. When the meeting ended, he pulled me close and whispered, you get it. The beauty of it. The screaming will go on for a while, but eventually it stops. The planet will be quiet again. Peaceful. I ran that same night, grabbed every file I could and disappeared. I've been terrified ever since. The man is a monster now, completely deranged and obsessed. He's got DARPA and secret biolabs across Africa, churning out nightmare after nightmare. He started with 15% and got addicted. Now he wants 84%, and he's not going to stop until the bodies pile so high the rest of us are buried. If you're hearing this, I'm still alive for now. The new strains are already being grown. The rats are being released. That 20-year clock is ticking down. This is real. It's coming. Please, believe me before it's too late.
She's not wrong about Gates and his biolab cartel weaponizing the hantavirus. It was never considered highly contagious between humans until very recently. In fact, early 1990s hantavirus fact sheets explicitly stated the virus was not transmissible person to person. So now with authorities suddenly warning about rapid human spread, people have every right to ask what changed. What she didn't mention, because it fell outside of the scope of her personal work, is that Gates and his network developed hantavirus mRNA vaccines in parallel with the weaponized virus itself. And the results of the hantavirus vaccine human trial conducted by the military? 98% of participants injected with the experimental vaccine suffered adverse events. And for the record, in case they try to change the narrative when the media gets involved in the propaganda push, the DNA plasmid was created at the Fort Detrick BSL-4 Army Lab, just like the shady origins of the mRNA vaccine, which RFK Jr. revealed was actually created by the US military, before it was handed over to Moderna and Pfizer for the public rollout. Keep all of this in mind when the mainstream media is gaslighting you and cranking up the pressure to take the miracle vaccine for an engineered pandemic. Also keep in mind that hantavirus is listed in Pfizer's 38-page documents. It's on page 33. Hantavirus is one of 1,233 listed side effects of the COVID vaccine. Just another coincidence. I'm sure you'll agree.
I will start with the statement of Joseph Sansone. It is based on the sworn statement of the late Professor Dr. Francis Boyle, who has determined and concluded. Professor Boyle is the greatest authority in the field of bioweapons legislation. He is the author of it. So he knows what is legally meant by it. He knew, like no other, that the COVID-19 mRNA injection is a bioweapon. He has also made that loud and clear to the world, known, after which, despite being in good health, he passed away shortly after he had declared himself willing to give testimony under oath about this in court. The core of Professor Boyle's argument is that the COVID-19 mRNA injections contain derivatives of illegal military gene function research. As a result, the COVID-19 injections qualify, by definition, as a military biological weapon system. A bioweapon, in other words. This bioweapon consists of two integrated components: the pathogenic load and the delivery mechanism. It is beyond doubt that the pathogenic load is the product of illegal gene or function research. Boyle refers to this, to an article in the scientific journal Nature Medicine, of which I have included the link in this plea note. If you open that link, you will immediately read the warning that true scientists believe that an animal is the most likely source of the coronavirus. You will also immediately know that what is called the new normal, true scientists, are not scientists, but faith fanatics. These are the scientists behind whom the respondents hide. The article in Nature Medicine that Boyle reports on was published in 2015, and the title reads, translated, "A cluster of circulating coronaviruses in bats, similar to SARS, shows potential for human infection." I present to you what the summary of this research included in the article reveals. It states, based on these findings, we have synthetically created an infectious, fully SHC014 recombinant virus developed and demonstrated robust viral replication, both in vitro and in vivo. So it states, we researchers have created a SARS-like coronavirus with a spike protein optimized for human infection. I cannot provide a better example of illegal gain of function research. And who wrote that article from 2015? Among others, researchers affiliated with UNC Chapel Hill and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Wuhan, yes, Wuhan. You know, where according to the official narrative, people suddenly dropped dead on the street when COVID-19 broke out because there was a bat mutated. The spike protein, the pathogenic payload of the bioweapon, is the result of this research. So it's not about a natural spike protein, but an illegally developed, synthetically made pathogen that has been optimized for human infection. The spike protein mRNA, with the instructions to human cells to produce this very pathogenic spike protein, is one of the two crucial building blocks of the COVID-19 bioweapon. Now, the delivery system, the NLPs, you know, the nanolipid particles that encapsulate the mRNA payload and deliver it into the interior of the cells. The propaganda term for this is fat globules, as if we're talking about something as harmless as a stick of butter. What did Boyle declare about it? Boyle declared that it is actually about a nanotechnology-enhanced delivery platform. This technology is, as Boyle declared, paid for, developed, financed, and conceived by the Pentagon and its research institute, DARPA. This technology platform, nanotechnology platform, was not an afterthought. Dr. Boyle points out that the virus itself was aerosolized and engineered with nanotechnology from the very beginning. This indicates a long-term program aimed at the application of advanced delivery systems, and this technology has been used in the COVID-19 injections. Boyle determined that the NLP delivery system in the injections is the result of a specific teacher-sponsored program for nanotechnological biological weapons. In the presentation by Sanson, you can read further about the legal implications of this. It is also argued that Gates and Borla qualify as suspects of crimes against humanity as defined in the Rome Statute concerning the International Criminal Court.
The media machine is allegedly already locked and loaded, ready to flood every screen with non-stop fear, panic, and psychological warfare designed to drive the public into obedience. But we can't say we haven't been warned. President Gaddafi warned us that the elite were working on a hantavirus outbreak, and that vaccines would be prepared to profit off the engineered pandemic.
زي الانفلونزا بتاعت الخنازير وان شاء الله تجيكم الانفلونزا بتاعت الاسماك في المستقبل على اي حال ان المصانع تشتغل بتاعت المخابرات هذه لا يسمح ببيع الدواء. الدواء لا يباع. اعلنوا يقولوا الدواء مجاني. الامصال مجانيه مش حتنتشر الفيروسات.
No wonder the globalists killed him.
We came, we saw, he died.
Then there was the X-Files, a known source of predictive programming. In the 1998 movie, Fight the Future, Dr. Alvin Kurtzville tells Mulder that FEMA managed a small, possibly staged hantavirus outbreak in Texas to cover up alien infection. It's worth remembering, the CIA used to feed script ideas to X-Files writers.
They want to discredit you for what?
Because I'm a dangerous man, because I know too much about the truth.
Now that end of the world apocalyptic garbage you write?
You know my work? I was right about Dallas, wasn't I?
How were you right?
Are you familiar with the hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young, young men in the military. Your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare or a virus.
But here's what they never want people to understand. None of it works without public compliance. The entire agenda depends on fear, deception, and obedience, while the machinery is built behind closed doors. According to Bill Gates' former staffer, the moment people learn the damning information she's about to reveal, the entire globalist operation begins collapsing in real time.
Anybody here heard about Agenda 21? Well, some. You need to all know about it. It's a code phrase. It's the title of the program for collectivism, global collectivism, which was designed at the United Nations and is being implemented as we speak in every country of the world, at least where the UN has an interest in implementing it, in the more advanced nations. And it's being done under the guise of environmentalism. They're using the label of, let's be concerned about our planet Earth. Our planet Earth is being destroyed. We're losing our natural resources. Everything is going bad in the environment. We've got global warming. We've got all these things. We've got pollution.
Ladies and gentlemen, the battle against climate change is surely the most defining and pivotal challenge of our times. Even in a world full of daunting perils and crises, it is hard to imagine anything that poses a greater challenge and opportunity for humanity.
So therefore, what we need is more laws. Surprise. More laws, and especially at the international level, to regulate and control these things and take away the personal freedoms that you and I have over our own property, because we need to do it for the greater good of the greater number. We need to do it to save the world. And there's that argument, the greater good of the greater number. To heck with your personal liberties and your freedoms. We're saving the world. That's all packaged under the heading of Agenda 21. If you don't know about it, learn about it quickly. And you need to be at every local town hall meeting, every county meeting. You've got to stand there and expose this Agenda 21 for exactly what it is, which is an assault against private property, and eventually it is the cutting edge of bringing the total collectivist package into all of the nations of the world, and it's being coordinated at the United Nations.
At its core, Agenda 21 is about control. Control of the land, natural resources, and entire populations. It seeks to control the air by regulation of carbon emissions, the ground by sustainable development, and the sea through environmental regulations. Officially stated, Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Because being human will always have an impact on the environment, Agenda 21 paves the way for extraordinary UN control. When you boil it down, there are 9 basic tenets of it.
Finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
Ladies and gentlemen, the battle against climate change is surely the most defining and pivotal challenge of our times. Even in a world full of daunting perils and crises, it is hard to imagine anything that poses a greater challenge and opportunity for humanity.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
The science is unequivocally true, and that there is a price to carbon in their future.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
The growing human population. Because where we are, there's nothing else.
We have to start spending money, fast on the solutions that we have in hand to try and help these countries which are already seeing the effects of climate change today and seeing the effects of our consumption, basically.
David Rothschild, thank you so much for joining us here on Bloomberg.
Look, first we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Every year, millions of imperfect babies are born.
destined for a life of struggle and hardship. But it is the rest of us who pay the ultimate cost. Billions of dollars that could be used to better society are instead wasted on the malformed. There must be a better way, and there is. Agenda 21 is coming soon.
And finally, implement policies meant to incentivize a reduced population.
New World Order, Mr. Rothschild? Right. New World Order? Depopulation?
Oh, listen, who are you...
Genocide?
Who are you televising for?
Well, we're independent
Yeah.
filmmakers. But you have nothing to say, Mr. Rothschild.
Have a nice life, sir.
And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for? Do you have an answer in the book? At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games, which is to be completely irrelevant. They won't even need you as a serf or as a slave. The technology will, on the one hand, make it possible to start enhancing and upgrading humans, and on the other hand, especially the rise of AI, will make more and more humans economically unnecessary, useless, and therefore also politically powerless. And the world or humanity might have, different parts of humanity might have different futures. And we might see really a process of some kind of speciation.
This man, Leo Skilperord, be patient zero in the new hantavirus outbreak. That is the theory currently favored by the World Health Organization. The infection likely occurred on March 28th. That day, 70-year-old Skilperord, a passionate ornithologist, visited this landfill near Ushuaia, Argentina to photograph a rare bird, the white-throated caracara. But the site was also full of rodents, carriers of the hantavirus, which can be transmitted through feces or by inhaling contaminated dust.
It's a common illness here because we have a species of rat that spreads it. Every year we see between 2 and 4 cases.
On April 1st, Skilperord boarded the cruise ship MV Hondius. His condition deteriorated rapidly until he died on April 11th. A death that brings back painful memories in a small village in the south of Argentina. In 2018, 11 people died here in an outbreak out of the 34 infected. 8 years later, residents are still wearing face masks.
I want to protect myself. You never know. Maybe mice got into the trash and peed there or something. And people touch their faces all the time. So that's why I wear it.
Authorities imposed a mandatory 45-day quarantine on all close contacts in an effort to stop the outbreak. Today, scientists are trying to determine whether the virus from 2018 is the same strain as the one circulating in 2026.
Could this virus have characteristics that make it more transmissible than the previous strains we've seen in Argentina and Chile?
The South American hantavirus variant Andes has a fatality rate of up to 50%.
Y bueno, pues para todo el operativo que tiene que ver con la coordinación con las autoridades sanitarias. Personas que están en el barco. El operativo, como bien saben, es un operativo que es absolutamente inédito. 23 países están implicados en la expatriación, en la evacuación de las personas del barco y bueno, pues estamos en coordinación con las autoridades sanitarias internacionales para hacerlo con toda la seguridad posible y con las mayores garantías de seguridad para la población y para la salud pública. Quería trasladarles una buena noticia y es que de los contactos que hemos tenido en España, que hemos contactado a través de nuestros mecanismos de vigilancia epidemiológica, que como bien saben hay una mujer en Alicante que tenía síntomas, que tenía tos y que había estado en ese vuelo que había compartido con una mujer que posteriormente había fallecido por hantavirus. La primera PCR ha dado negativa, o sea que tenemos un primer contacto que es negativo a PCR. Le hemos vuelto a repetir la PCR, en 24 horas volverá volveremos a tener un segundo resultado, pero es una buena noticia, es la misma noticia que tuvimos de la misma azafata que atendió a esa mujer que posteriormente falleció. A este respecto, pues el resto de contactos, la otra mujer que está en Cataluña no tiene síntomas, aún así le estaremos haciendo el seguimiento, por supuesto, la cuarentena y bueno, pues tenemos preparado también todo el mecanismo para que los españoles, primero, sean bienvenidos en su tierra, tienen muchas ganas de llegar a España y segundo, sean trasladados al Hospital Gómez Ulla, donde les haremos todas las evaluaciones y todos los análisis y donde tendrán que pasar esa cuarentena. No sé si hay alguna pregunta.
Gracias. Hola. Sí. Buenas noches, sí, ministra, para Radio y Televisión Española. Querría saber si nos puede detallar un poco si han hablado con los pasajeros, en qué situación se encuentran y, bueno, recordarnos un poco cuál va a ser el protocolo de traslado mañana.
Bien, sí, hablamos ayer, estamos hablando permanentemente con los pasajeros, hablamos ayer con los pasajeros españoles, yo tuve una videoconferencia con ellos, nos trasladaban que estaban bien, sigue sin haber ningún pasajero que tenga ningún síntoma, porque como bien saben en el buque hay 4 personas, 2 expertos del gobierno holandés y un representante de la Organización Mundial de la Salud de África y del ECDC y siguen haciendo esas encuestas epidemiológicas en las cuales nos han trasladado a última hora que por ahora sigue sin haber ningún pasajero con síntomas y por supuesto ninguno de los españoles por ahora presenta síntomas. Lo que sí que nos las trasladaron es que bueno, que estaban tranquilos pero que tenían muchísimas ganas de venir, que tuviéramos especial cuidado también con su privacidad, que por favor que intentáramos preservar, y aquí lo hago extensible a todos ustedes, la privacidad de los pasajeros y de los pasajeros españoles en este caso, que yo quería aclarar que no son pacientes ni son casos, ninguno de los que viene son pacientes ni son casos, son personas, son en este caso compatriotas que van a venir aquí y que van a guardar su cuarentena y que van a seguir los protocolos estrictos de salud pública. Y más allá de eso, pues como ya les hemos contado esta mañana en la rueda de prensa que hemos tenido el ministro del Interior y yo, bueno, pues los pasajeros, el barco estará fondeado y será trasladado con lanchas aquí a tierra. A partir de aquí, después de haberles hecho una primera encuesta epidemiológica y una evaluación médica en el propio barco, bueno, pues las personas que sean extranjeras y que tengan aquí el avión preparado, ya tenemos poco a poco se nos van sumando más aviones de los diferentes países. Ahora mismo creo que solo nos faltan 2 aviones por confirmar que van a llegar, que puedan llegar mañana y a partir de ahí, bueno, pues serán evacuados, serán trasladados y serán desembarcados. Prioritariamente intentaremos que sean los españoles, dado que tenemos aquí ya el vuelo del Ministerio de Defensa, la nave del Ministerio de Defensa la tenemos aquí ya preparada, pues serán los españoles los primeros que serán evacuados. Y luego, pues en función de las diferentes nacionalidades, bueno, pues en función de cuándo vayan teniendo los vuelos. Así que está todo preparado, tenemos todos los equipos de protección para las personas que vayan a bajar, tanto para esas personas como para los que vayan a estar en el operativo. Y, bueno, pues toda la colaboración con el Gobierno de Canarias, toda la colaboración con las autoridades sanitarias internacionales y, vuelvo a insistir, esto es un operativo en el que estamos orgullosos que haya sido la Organización Mundial de la Salud la que nos haya encargado a España por las características, por la robustez de nuestros sistemas de vigilancia epidemiológica, por la robustez de nuestro sistema sanitario, por la robustez de nuestros sistemas de salud pública, que haya elegido España como el lugar para hacer esta operación tan compleja.
And crew evacuated from a cruise ship hit by an outbreak of hantavirus will start leaving Arrow Park Hospital in Merseyside today. 10 other people linked to the cruise are being brought to the UK as a precaution. Our correspondent Vincent McAviney is at Arrow Park Hospital in the north of England.
There are 20 Britons here, a German national who's resident in the UK and a Japanese national as well. They're in the end stages of a 72-hour initial assessment. They've all been tested for hantavirus and we are awaiting the results of that. They have been told that if they can go home, they will be able to start going home from this evening, but some of them will have to stay here in hospital accommodation that is separate to these main buildings behind me. That is because if there are other family members living at home who were not on the cruise, they can't sort of go home and stay with them. So some of the passengers will get to go home, we think, as from tonight. Others will start to go home tomorrow morning if they've got longer journeys, but some will be staying on this hospital site, and they all have to self-isolate for around 42 days. We're going to have to monitor their symptoms if they have any, and sort of send information into the UK health authorities, who they'll be in contact with daily, we understand.
Vincent, what is the latest on the condition of the French woman who we know is seriously ill with hantavirus in Paris?
Yeah, some sad news from across the channel. We understand that she is in a severe condition, having problems with both her heart and her lungs. They're having to use an artificial lung to pump blood around her body now in what's being described by French doctors as a last-ditch attempt to save her life. So a quite sad situation developing there. The other bit of international news is that 10 Britons who are on the UK overseas territories of St Helena and Ascension Island are set to be evacuated to the UK for self-isolation. We think they'll be brought here to Arrow Park Hospital on the Wirral in the northwest of England at some point in the next few days. The UK health authorities, though, are saying that the risk to the public is very low, that quarantine procedures are working, that this is a known virus, unlike COVID-19 back in 2020. They feel like they know what they're doing with this, and that follows the words from the World Health Organization over the past 24 hours, saying that this is not going to be some kind of mass outbreak, that at the sites around the world where these passengers have been taken, things are going to plan.
Vincent
McAfee home to 3 quarantining teenagers and their parents. The family is among France's high-risk contacts because they were on the same flight from St Helena to Johannesburg as the Dutch woman who died from hantavirus the following day. All have tested negative, but they've been hospitalized to minimize the risk of the virus spreading and to ensure a swift response should they fall ill.
People can develop lung complications when they become short of breath, and in such cases we need to act quickly, if only to give them oxygen.
22 French nationals are currently under observation in hospitals in Paris, Bordeaux and Marseille, where they will remain for at least 2 weeks, perhaps longer, as the incubation period can last up to 6 weeks. On the reassuring side, initial genome sequencing shows the virus does not appear to have mutated, making it easier to monitor.
There are no indications that this virus is acting any different from the known virus circulating in some regions of the world. All sequences obtained to date are virtually identical, which means that there was likely only a single transmission event from an infected animal to a human.
The French health minister reiterated Tuesday that the virus appeared to be under control. At the moment, the virus isn't spreading. I think that's where we need to start. Now, the government's responsibility is to plan ahead and anticipate every possible scenario, even the unimaginable ones. Scenarios for which France's 18 specialist hospitals are standing by. Angers Hospital has even set up a small field ward to accommodate potential patients.
După debarcarea tuturor pasagerilor de pe nava cu focar de hantavirus, atenția se îndreaptă acum către izolarea acestora și prevenirea răspândirii virusului. Pasagerii vor rămâne în spitale cel puțin 3 zile pentru controale medicale și testări. În tot acest timp, în Europa, crește îngrijorarea. Femeia infectată din Franța este acum conectată la aparate și respiră artificial.
It is my second day here at the National Quarantine Unit. The room is very spacious and comfortable.
El este Jake Rosemary, un pasager american care a fost la bordul navei cu focar de hantavirus. Se află în carantină în Omaha, statul Nebraska. Își împărtășește experiența pe rețelele de socializare, cum arată camera în care este carantinat și ce condiții are.
I feel good right now. I'm happy to be in a place where I know we are well cared for, and if anything happens, we have the medical attention that we need.
Toți cei 16 americani carantinați în Nebraska sunt asimptomatici. Alți 2 americani se află în carantină în Atlanta. Unul dintre doctorii Unității Naționale de Carantină spune că, în acest moment, deși sunt testați negativ, pasagerii trebuie să rămână în unitate.
We're really trying to figure out individually what risk assessment might be for each person, so that way we can know what the best recommendations are for them.
La nivel global au fost raportate până acum 11 cazuri. Dintre acestea, un pasager spaniol testat pozitiv a început să prezinte simptome, febră și dificultăți respiratorii. Pe de altă parte, o franțuzoaică care a fost pe vasul Hondius și infectată cu hantavirus este în stare gravă la terapie intensivă. Virusul, de altfel, provoacă îngrijorare în toată Europa. Franța, Italia și Regatul Unit cer măsuri de urgență.
Aujourd'hui, le gouvernement a sans doute un des protocoles qui est les plus exigeants, comme l'Espagne et quelques autres, ce qui est une bonne chose, parce que nous avons l'expérience du passé. Pour autant, maintenant, il est important qu'il y ait une vraie coordination européenne, c'est-à-dire que les protocoles, je pense, aillent vers les standards les plus exigeants qui ont été définis à très court terme.
Duminică, nava Hondius va ajunge în portul din Rotterdam. Acolo vor fi debarcați ultimii membri ai echipajului, după care nava va trece printr-un amplu proces de dezinfectare și igienizare.
Mally Hogan from 7 News Australia. There is some unease in the local community here. Do you feel those concerns are legitimate, or are you confident in the steps that are being taken to keep people safe?
Do you want to
Yeah, I can. Yeah, thank you. Maybe very much close to what you asked. I wrote a message today to the people of Tenerife to address exactly what you said. This disease is not COVID, and we have said it many times as WHO. And when we say this, we don't take it lightly. And then, of course, the other issue I'd like to say, which I also indicated in my message to the people of Tenerife, is the risk to the population, to the local population, is low. One is because of the very nature of the disease itself, but second, the risk is low because the Spanish government has made all the preparations to prevent any problem. So I want the local people, the Tenerife people, to really listen to us clearly and trust what we say. But as you rightly said, the concern is legitimate because we have all experienced because of COVID, especially in 2020. And that trauma is still in our minds. So people will have questions, people will have concerns. And that's what I tried to address in my message to the people of Tenerife. We hear you, we understand. But the situation is much better now. And the other advantage is the nature of the disease as well. So that's why also I came here, to be on the side of the people. Because saying things from far could be easy. But I had to change my plan to come here, because this is very, very important for the whole world and for the people of Tenerife as well. And then the other issue is, I thank the Prime Minister because based on the request WHO made, he accepted, and the request I made was based on international health regulation. And countries are expected to cooperate based on that international health regulation. În paralel, și autoritățile medicale din țara noastră sunt în alertă maximă după ce virusul mortal a ajuns în Europa. Au fost activate de urgență mai multe măsuri preventive, iar medicii sunt gata să acționeze pentru gestionarea rapidă a eventualelor cazuri. Reporterul B1 TV Loredana Neștian se află la Institutul Național de Boli Infecțioase Matei Bal și ne aduce toate detaliile. Loredana, te urmărim, bună dimineața!
Bună dimineața, bun găsit tuturor! Virusul periculos care a dus la decesul a 3 persoane pe croaziera din Atlantica a ajuns și în Europa, așadar 2 cazuri noi au fost confirmate în Franța și în Spania, de asemenea un caz a fost confirmat și în Statele Unite ale Americii. Așadar, alături de mine îl am pe domnul doctor Adrian Marinescu, care este managerul Institutului Matei Bal și ne aduce mai multe detalii. Bună dimineața! Cum se manifestă această boală și care sunt riscurile să se răspândească, având în vedere că a ajuns și în Europa?
Bună dimineața! Înainte de toate, virusul nu a ajuns în Europa, era în Europa și din punctul meu de vedere nu e nici ucigaș, nici periculos dacă ne uităm la statistici. E un virus global care a existat încă de foarte multă vreme peste tot în lume. E adevărat că au fost cazuri izolate. De exemplu, România, în ultimii ani, din 2022, a avut 15 cazuri diagnosticate. Toate fără deces și fără în forme complicate. Ca manifestări, de cele mai multe ori, seamănă cu o viroză sau cu o gripă, adică o simptomatologie cu febră, cu durere articulare, cu stare generală ușor modificate și e foarte greu să-ți dai seama. Iar la formele complicate înseamnă, din păcate, afectare pulmonară cu insuficiență respiratorie, afectare renală și se poate ajunge și la deces.
Cum ne putem proteja de acest virus?
Bine, ar trebui în primul rând ca autoritățile, vorbind în general, nu doar în România, să ne protejeze de rozătoare, pentru că ele transmit multe din bolile infecțioase, sau mai multe boli infecțioase, da? Discuție pe care am avut-o și în România de fiecare dată. Al doilea aspect, dacă vorbim de situația rară în care s-ar transmite de la om la om, evident că trebuie să mă feresc de omul care are simptome, da? Chiar dacă nu știu despre ce este vorba. Iar dacă în plus sunt și spațiile închise și mai puțin ventilate, cum se întâmplă pe un vas de croazieră, există și acest risc, chiar dacă e mic.
Sunt simptome diferite când e o formă ușoară de boală?
Cu siguranță. Dacă e o formă ușoară, seamănă bine cu o viroză și nu pot să-mi dau seama, fără să am niște teste de laborator. Dacă vorbim de formele severe, cu complicațiile despre care spuneam, evident că atunci lucrurile arată altfel. Dar e foarte greu să-mi dau seama la o afectare pulmonară doar de acolo că e hantavirus versus un alt microorganism. Dar sigur că pot să mă gândesc dacă am un context, că am venit în contact cu o persoană care a avut hantavirus, că am venit în contact direct sau indirect cu rozătoarele, mă voi gândi și la acest diagnostic.
După cât timp acest virus iese din corp?
Bine, înainte de toate se pune întrebarea care e intervalul, perioada de incubație și ea variază destul de mult, de la o săptămână până la 6, chiar 8 săptămâni. Deci un interval lung de timp. Acest lucru a fost luat în calcul și pe vas. Legat de perioade, e foarte greu de spus. Putem să vorbim de câteva zile până la o săptămână la o formă ușoară sau evoluția să fie prelungită în momentul în care vorbim de o formă severă. Ce e important de spus e că nu există un tratament antiviral specific, de exemplu ca la gripă, și pentru că nu există, nici nu pot să spun că lucrurile se rezolvă în primele zile. Da? Deci este o evoluție care variază.
Și cât de mult am avea nevoie de un vaccin pentru hantavirus?
Bine, principial avem nevoie de un vaccin pentru multe microorganisme care ne-ar putea pune probleme. Nu înseamnă că era o problemă de sănătate publică atât de multe cazuri încât să fie în mod obligatoriu un vaccin. Dacă el va putea fi obținut, e bine de avut, e bine de luat în calcul. Tot ce înseamnă vaccin pentru diversele boli, din punctul meu de vedere, sunt binevenite aceste vaccinuri. Dar nu înseamnă că trebuie să avem mâine, nu înseamnă că este o urgență, pentru că totuși cazurile sunt puține.
Trebuie românii să se sperie de hantavirus acum că s-a răspândit în croazieră?
Nu, cu siguranță că nu. E un simplu focar. E de luat în calcul, de analizat, de văzut dacă într-adevăr e o anumită implicație, dar categoric că putem să ne facem și vacanțele, sigur, cu prudență, despre care vorbim mereu, pentru că până la urmă sunt multe alte boli, mai mult sau mai puțin exotice, care ne pot pune probleme. Deci trebuie oricum să fim atenți.
Mulțumim foarte mult pentru detalii. Așadar, așa cum ați auzit, au existat 15 cazuri în ultimii 3 ani în România, însă cu o formă ușoară de boală.
Hello and welcome to our 5th update on hantavirus. My name is Nika Alexander. I'm part of the communications team here at the World Health Organization in Geneva. Today we have 2 guests yet again. One will speak with us about border health, and because she's speaking about border health, she will naturally speak about the international health regulations. And another colleague will speak with us about infection prevention and control. So let me introduce them, and then we will speak with them. So first of all, in studio here with me in Geneva is Sara Barragan Montes. She's a technical lead, border health and points of entry with the World Health Organization. And online, joining us from Copenhagen, we have Ana Paula Cucino Resse, a technical officer, infection prevention and control with the WHO Regional Office for Europe. Very nice to see you. So I'll actually start here before we go to you, Ana Paula. I'll start here with Sarah. I just wanted to give the statistics off the top, or the size of this outbreak off the top. We are with 11 cases and 3 deaths. You will have further updates today. I believe we'll be publishing a disease outbreak news, and our Director General is following this closely as well. You can follow through his communications the latest updates. So let me start with you, Sarah. WHO was alerted on the 2nd of May that something was happening. We were alerted of a case of hantavirus by the UK, and that's when things began to move. By a week later, on the 9th of May, you were actually in Spain and then moved onwards to Tenerife. Tell me, what was your role in this response initially, and then I'll ask you what your role was on the ground.
Muchas gracias, Nika. Thank you very much. So I started indeed working on the 2nd of May on this response, and my main role, together with my colleagues in the incident management team, was to develop the key technical guidance on the management of the passengers and the crew on board the cruise ship during the disembarkation and also on board of the aircrafts, because my main focus is border health and points of entry. Then my work shifted a little bit when on the 9th of May, I landed in Tenerife, and as the WHO lead in this area, I was working in the main coordination tent, where the operation was being coordinated and led by the Ministry of Health of Spain in close collaboration with other ministries such as Interior. And what I did there in particular was to work together with both ministries, with Health and Interior, to monitor the situation in real time and then report it to my colleagues here in Geneva, so they could themselves then support all of the countries that were involved in this operation through the national IHR focal points network. So in that sense, as you mentioned, this response has been a key example of the IHR in action.
So we'll get back to IHR in a second, but can you share some of the key statistics? Before we had a discussion beforehand, and you were talking about the numbers, and this is exactly what you were following, the number of people, which airplane, when it would arrive, and so on. So what are some of the overall statistics that give us a sense of what was involved in this operation?
Correct. So the operation was done during the course of 2 days. In total, more than 120 people were disembarked from the cruise ship, and then they were taken to 9 flights that were chartered by the respective governments from 8 different countries. So this gives you a little bit of the dimension, an idea of the large dimension of this operation.
So you mentioned the international health regulations. Tell us a little bit about those and why they've been so key, why WHO officials keep mentioning these regulations.
So the international health regulations are the framework that governs the way that countries prepare for and respond to health emergencies. And they do so by, when they respond, they do so by, let's say, cooperating among each other between countries and partners, and also making sure that the response has a public health justification and that it does not interfere with international traffic and trade in ways that are not justified from a public health point of view.
So we often use the word unduly, that it doesn't unduly interfere. Traffic and trade aren't more important than health, but there's a level at which it's justified to have some limits and a point at which it isn't. So that's basically what IHR is governing, right?
Correct. It's a matter of achieving that balance between protecting public health while ensuring that we continue promoting or safeguarding international mobility.
Because people need to move around, they need to work, food needs to arrive, medicines need to circulate. So it's not about trade in the sense of letting money flow. It's really making sure that the system, our system, continues to work.
Correct.
So I want to give a little bit of history, actually, of the IHR. I promise it won't take very long. So the origins are traced back to the 19th century, when the expansion of travel and trade meant that people were moving around more, and when people move, diseases move. And in particular, the diseases that were worrying people were cholera, plague, and yellow fever that were passing port to port. So this prompted the introduction of quarantine measures, but initially they were sort of helter-skelter. They were bilateral, they were regional, they hadn't been brought together, and they were brought together under the International Sanitary Regulations in 1951, which was 3 years after WHO was formed, and the regulations were later renamed the International Health Regulations and have since continued to evolve. So I brought in an older version. I'm not sure I should be showing this older version of the International Health Regulations, but tell me why this is old, why this isn't not the current version.
Well, it is old because the international health regulations have been very recently amended. This was one of the key results of the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. And indeed, a new version of the IHR was adopted by the World Health Assembly and entered into force in 2024.
I'll move now to Ana Paula. So Ana Paula Cucino-Resse is a technical officer, infection prevention and control. She's joining us from Copenhagen, where her office is. But you were also in Tenerife. Can you tell us, Ana Paula, what your role was in Tenerife? What your role was when you're with our other colleagues, our 8 colleagues in total in Tenerife, under the direct direction of our Director General?
So my role was to make sure that if there were questions about infection prevention and control to be applied either in the ship or in the aircrafts or during the transport of these passengers, that if any questions, I would be there to provide support to authorities on site. And also to make sure that infection prevention and control is not only reduced to personal protective equipment, but much more. All the other measures that also need to be in place to ensure the safe and the safe transport of these passengers and crew members.
Tell me why you needed to be there in person. So WHO had already provided this guidance from the very beginning when we were first alerted to this situation. We had started to put together guidance to make sure everyone would be safe, shared that with the relevant governments, the governments who were responsible and had a role to play. But why did you need to be there on the ground as well?
Well, I was there because there were a lot of questions about how to implement the guidance that Sarah also mentioned, right? Is the guidance for how we would do for the passengers while they were still on board in the ship, and also for when they were disembarked. So there were a lot of questions, and the questions were not only from Spanish authorities, but also from all the other countries, especially those who were receiving passengers. So my role really was to make sure that we articulate the recommendations that exist in this guidance in a very clear and practical manner, because we were on site seeing how things were being implemented by Spanish authorities, and we could see our recommendation in action.
That must have been very satisfactory to see your help becoming really quite concrete. Can you tell me when there was a moment while you were there that you really felt this kind of global cooperation?
So everybody asked me, I came back and how was, I saw solidarity in action. And I think that this is what I want to emphasize. I saw solidarity among different authorities on site, among different countries, partners, humans. I saw solidarity in action. And I think that this is a tremendous operation that happened in Spain. And we feel very privileged to be there and, see that in action.
I can imagine that would be very moving. Sarah, I want to ask you the same question. What was a highlight moment for you? I know it's a little bit strange to talk about a positive moment out of something so difficult, but it's really, when did you feel you were truly helping?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of emotions in that coordination tent. We were working very, very intensely during 2 days. And I think the most emotional moment was when the disembarkation of all those passengers had finished, and then the ship went out of the port and it horned, and we could hear the sound from the tent, and everyone starting just hugging each other, and really like you could feel the bond that we had created between the Ministry of Health, the rest of the ministries involved, and WHO as well. And just as we came out of the tent, there was this family picture that everyone decided to take together, and that's when you really could feel that sense of true partnership and solidarity that my colleague Ana Paula was mentioning.
I'm going to ask you in a second what's next, and you can tell us where, because there's still 25 crew members remaining on the ship, for example. But for journalists on the line, and even for people who are curious, WHO has a photo library where we've been uploading photos from this operation, and anyone in the public has access to look at those photos. You can even download them. Journalists can certainly use them as well, so I'm doing a small plug for our photo library, and with great thanks to our communications colleagues who are on site in Tenerife as well, so we could document this historic operation. So tell me, what's next for the ship and for the crew?
Thank you very much for that question indeed. So the operation in Tenerife was very successful, but indeed this is one phase of a very long process. As you mentioned, there are 27 people that remain on board, and this includes 25 crew members, one Dutch doctor and one Dutch nurse that are on their way from Tenerife to the Netherlands. And for us, we will continue supporting particularly from the border health and point of entry perspective. When we look into that cruise ship, we will continue supporting all the countries involved until the moment the cruise ship arrives to the Netherlands. Everyone is safely disembarked, and also the cruise ship is duly disinfected. And if I may, so we don't do that alone. We do that with many partners. So primarily the international labor organizations, our colleagues there, we established a very good collaboration during the COVID-19 pandemic. This was one of the key lessons learned from us. We realized that we need to come together to protect workers at sea, transport workers in general, and global supply chains during health emergencies. And from the 2nd of May, when this outbreak response started, we activated a mechanism with them to share information, and now we are daily in contact to make sure that we know what's the status of health of those on board.
I wanted to raise, so just before preparing, or while preparing for this session, I reached out to our colleagues who do risk communications and community engagement and asked them what were issues that the public were most concerned about. What are the issues we see coming up regularly? And this is what they summarized. So people are concerned about further spread. They're concerned about the fact that this virus seems to be so deadly. We can see that 3 people of those 11 people who were infected have died. They're concerned that maybe the virus could change. They're concerned about what happens given that the incubation period for this particular Andes hantavirus is up to 6 weeks. So how do you make sure more people don't get sick? And they're concerned about the fact that there isn't a specific vaccine or a specific treatment for this. And we won't be able to answer in this conversation all of those issues, but we're also concerned about this. This is why we're following this outbreak so closely. This is why colleagues have worked on infection prevention and control measures, so that contacts, so that the people who have disembarked the ship are kept safe. We also, as was raised, are concerned about the fact that there aren't vaccines or treatments, and I'll tell you about 2 things that are happening around that. So tomorrow, under the Research and Development Blueprint, there's going to be a technical advisory group meeting on antivirals and monoclonal antibodies, which are a form of treatment. None of them are licensed or proven effective for hantavirus, but some may warrant inclusion in a research study. So that's a meeting that's being held tomorrow, Thursday. And then on Friday, WHO and the UK Health Security Agency are holding a research and development consultation on hantavirus to review epidemiology and the transmission of the virus, to provide an overview of research, ongoing research on diagnostics, therapeutics, vaccines, and to see what more needs to be done. About 1,000 researchers are expected to join. We sent that alert to media as well. Journalists are welcome to join if they're interested. So that's the kind of work that we have ongoing to try to answer some of those questions and to mitigate the concerns that people very legitimately have. So that's it. We try to keep these short and sharp. I hope they were useful. Let us know again in the comments if there's a topic you would like us to address. And I just want to thank again Sara Barragan Montes, who's been with me here. She's a technical lead for border health and points of entry. And also online, Ana Paula Cucino Resse, a technical officer on infection prevention and control at our regional office in Europe. But of course, we're one WHO and are working together on this. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you again soon. We don't know if we'll have another one of these. We may have another way of updating you. But if needed, we'll do another one of these WHO Lives and provide more information. Have a good day. Thank you.
But they have the sovereignty, so we can't force them to take our protocols. We can only advise and recommend, but I hope they will follow the advice and the recommendations we're making. Thank you.
Held in New York on Friday, 18th October 2019. The event brought together business and public health leaders from around the world to plan what would be done in response to a simulated coronavirus pandemic. The event took place approximately 1 month prior to the first recorded cases of COVID-19 in China. To confirm, global leaders simulated a coronavirus pandemic prior to the emergence of the real COVID-19 pandemic we are now living through. The event was hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum, and the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. In this simulation, they discussed how global public-private partnerships would coordinate the pandemic response effort, global solutions to a global problem. Does it seem strange that an almost identical scenario was proposed and planned for prior to the current COVID-19 pandemic that has caused such havoc over the last year and a half? Is it a surprise to see Bill Gates involved, along with Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum, whose powers of prediction seem limitless? Bear in mind, none of the participants are elected. They are operating outside the democratic process. This is what the globalist elites want, a future where decision-making is in the hands of the UN, world government, and private entities. So is this just coincidence, or did they know something was coming? You decide.
It begins the way most outbreaks do, quietly. Flights depart from a single international hub, connecting travellers to dozens of countries in a matter of hours. Within a week, 13 countries are reporting clusters of severe respiratory illness.
Acute respiratory, fever 39.8, SATs dropping.
Bay 3, get me a chest tray.
Patients present with sudden high fever, rapid deterioration, and bilateral pneumonia. Standard treatments are failing. Rapid viral panels detect common respiratory pathogens, but not influenza and not COVID-19. Blood cultures return negative or inconclusive. The clinical picture is severe and the cause remains unknown. Healthcare workers begin appearing among the cases.
3 more staff out today, 2 called in sick. Can the night team extend? They're already on double shifts.
Staff absence mount. In the most affected hospitals, beds are filling faster than they can be turned over. 27 countries affected. Cause unknown. Pressure rising.